You guys have seen this slide earlier today. I think what we're working for is a future where every day is a nice day, and that's our biggest energy problem, is that we're having solar energy spills. But I brought it up today to talk about the revolution that we've seen in our communication network. We're all familiar with the internet, the way that we can store and share and transfer information, the way it's localized and diversified. What we need to do to get to that nice day energy future is make the same sort of paradigm shift in our energy system. And in order to do that, we need to make that same shift in our economic and our financial systems. There is a real power to networks. We think of them because as being diverse, inclusive, localized, collaborative, but the real power of a network is that it's efficient, it can handle much higher and more complicated flows of information or energy or money, and it's also resilient. A networked system can withstand shocks to that system or sudden changes to that system much more effectively than a top-down, centralized sort of system. So that's the big picture, it's a shift towards a networked system. But first, before we get there, I want to ask you a personal question. As I think about having kids, my wife is here and we're about to have our first baby. How many folks have kids here? When you think about the long-term future for your children, which economic strategy would you prefer they rely on primarily? Burning up their inheritance or building up income? All right, show of hands. A, rely primarily on burning up our inheritance. I really see no hands. All right, one, thank you. All right, B.
That's a real small carbon.
What inheritance? Building up a sustainable income.
What inheritance?
All right, economically speaking, it seems like some of us are more in favor of building up an income. All right, pop quiz. What percent of the world economy is powered by solar energy? Under 1%. All right, quite a few hands. 5 to 20? 1 or 2 hands. 20 to 80? Nobody. Over 90%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More people are coming up. All right, actually the correct answer is 94% of our economy is powered by solar energy. Now, I know you're looking at me like I got solar goggles and then I'm crazy, but there is a large fiery ball at the center of our solar system that has been bombarding this planet with unbelievable amounts of energy every single minute for billions of years. Surprise! Not all solar energy is renewable. When the fundamental economics of energy boil down to a simple choice, are we primarily relying on burning our inheritance or building income? From an economic perspective, there are 2 types of solar energy. Fossil fuel energy is our solar inheritance. Renewable energy is our solar income. And we all know this. In the 5th grade part of our brain, we learned 300 million years ago, plants absorb sunlight. It turns into animals eat that, right? Carbon dioxide turns into carbohydrates. Over billions of years, it becomes massive deposits of hydrocarbons. That's our inheritance. And we also have a massive solar income. We think of it in terms of solar electricity. Everyone that raised their hand for the 1%. That's what you were thinking of, right? And you're pretty correct on that. But there's a lot of other solar energy that we have available to us. Solar hot water, solar cooling, biomass. The sun heats the air, which drives the wind. All wind energy is originally solar. What evaporates all the water that gets it up behind the dam so that we can use it? Solar energy. Right? So when we actually look at the energy grid on the planet, this is a pie chart from International Energy Agency, and I've broken it down to show that 80% of what powers the world economy is inheritance, only 13% is our income, and the other 6% is atomic energy. We're using virtually no lunar energy. That would be tidal power. We're not really there yet. The goal is to switch these wedges around so that we're relying, as we agreed was smart economically, on a system powered primarily by sustainable income and not burning up our inheritance, which we're currently doing 1,000,000 times faster than it was created, right? Not wise economics. There is a transition underway. And there's a couple things that I'll point out that are driving that transition. Renewables are on the rise. For the first time last year, renewable energy in the US supplied more baseload power than nuclear energy. For all the folks out there that argue renewables are intermittent, renewables are volatile, more baseload power than nuclear. And in the next couple of years, residential solar photovoltaics, the most expensive renewable energy, are going to be cost competitive across 2/3 of the US, according to the National Renewable Energy Lab. Now, weigh that against the external costs of the current system that we have. This has been pointed out by a few speakers here today. The EPA calculates that if we spent just $3 billion once reducing smokestack pollution, we could cut off $100 to $300 billion annually in health and welfare benefits, right? That's a payback over 10 years of 1,001. Not to mention the tens of thousands of lives that we save by doing that. It's an incredible investment. U.S. corporate profits are about $500 billion a year, and the negative external impacts of that system are 5 times that, at $2.5 trillion a year. And the investment required to make this transition is reasonable. The numerous studies show it's about 1 to 3%. If U.S. GDP, or global GDP is $50 trillion, then we need about $1 trillion a year, 2%. The IEA just 2 days ago said we need $36 trillion of additional investment by 2050. Next 35 years, $36 trillion. We need $1 trillion a year. If we invest $1 trillion a year over the next 20, 30 years, that would reduce costs by $150 trillion, right? 36 in, 150 back. So we're saving money here. What the cost is $130 a person per year. The International Energy Agency estimates that if all of us spent 35 cents a day, we could save the planet. And by spending that money, we would get $1.15 a day back. We would make money saving the planet if we made these investments in what is the most sound, fundamentally economic choice. So the real question is, how do we get that investment to bear? How can we bring that investment to play? And there are 3 things that we can do.